136, Lamar Remy. 151, Caleb Williamson. 156, Jordan Selig. 157, Justin Selig. 164, Devin Valencia. Carson Moon. 189, Alexander Falone.
All right, guys.
190, Alexander Tilly.
Show me what you got.
We're at Randall's Island for the first John McEnroe Tennis Academy tryouts. And who knows, maybe we'll see a future star. But I know for sure we will be talking with one.
Well, I have a lot of history here myself. I grew up in Queens. I came here as a kid, played some sports here. I had a great place to go to in Port Washington. Turned out to be one of the, I think, premier tennis academies that was around. Certainly the best one that's been around here. And there hasn't been much comparable since the last 30 years. So, I mean, basically, I'd like to get that spark going, that excitement in tennis, and give something back, hopefully, and provide that inspiration that I got with the people that I work with. The Harry Hotmans, he was a great Davis Cup captain, and worked with all the great players in Australia. They had this tradition, and I know when he stepped out on a court that, you know, I started trying harder and wanted to show him what I had, and I know the other kids wanted to impress as well, and that's hopefully what I can do when I get out in the court and work with these kids when they start playing here at Randall's Island.
What's the philosophy behind the McEnroe Academy of Tennis?
Well, philosophy is probably a little bit different than what you hear, in the sense that I don't think that you need to leave your parents when you're 8 years old, or necessarily quit school or turn pro at some absurdly young age, or focus all your time and effort when you're just still growing and maturing a bit. And I think they'd benefit from actually being able to do some other things, some team things. If they like to do it, you could go on a soccer field and you get a great workout. It's better than some other people that may have to do 2-on-1 drills. Not that you don't have to do some of that, but I don't think that I would have made it had I been sent to a place in Florida, like the Bollettieri type place. I wouldn't have liked it. I would have hated being away at that age. Some people, that alternative is there, and they can do that. That is, and if that's the way that a parent thinks that's how their kid's going to succeed, they can make that decision. But I think there's a nice option here that perhaps they could stay closer to home for a while, at least till they get old enough to either go to college or try to step it up into the pro level.
How important is balance for these kids doing other things in addition to playing tennis?
Well, I think it's important, but I like to think that I'm living proof that you can succeed living a relatively normal life and doing other things. And a lot of people think that I'm a bit of a dinosaur, I suppose, that you need to, at 8 years old, put everything into it and that you have no chance. I don't agree with that. I know I spoke with Roger Federer recently, and at 12, 13, 14, he was still playing some, what they call football, what we call soccer. I mean, he wasn't completely and totally immersed into doing nothing but tennis. And if you look at Nadal, he has a history of success with his family, with his uncle was a great soccer player. He was doing that. It doesn't mean you're not spending a lot of time on a tennis court. Of course it means that, but it also doesn't mean that you have to give up everything else, especially the kids that like to blow off some steam in a different way.
Is this the first year for this?
First year for this is starting in September. I've been working here since the beginning of the year, sort of assessing the situation, see what we're up against. And this is going to take time, of course, because to try to get the best athletes we can, to try to get people from different boroughs, to try to get perhaps kids that live in Connecticut or New Jersey or farther out on Long Island. This is would be a commitment for families to some degree, but I think it's pretty accessible. It's not the ideal. It would be nice if there was a subway stop here, or the LIRR that I used to take would stop here, but we don't have that. So one of the reasons why I want to get sponsorship is that we can provide better transportation and have that available for the kids, and obviously the more money you get, the more scholarship money we can afford to give to get people here, and also to pay the pros better, because they need to be fairly compensated, and it's key to have good lieutenants I can count on.
How
would you describe the state of men's tennis right now with an American not winning a Grand Slam since like 2003?
Well, it's obviously gone overseas, but I mean, if you think about it, I don't. If someone had told you 7 years ago that some kid from Mallorca would be one of the greatest players that ever lived and have won 8 Grand Slams now, I think people would have laughed at you. And Jared. If you had told someone Roger Federer lived in grew up in a normal environment, and he joined a club and he succeeded. So it doesn't mean you have to come from a war-torn zone in Serbia, which some people did, or there's people that are literally hungry in Russia that had to leave their countries, and part of their success is because they want it more. And obviously you need kids that want it or hungry, but that doesn't mean it can't happen here. I think there's plenty of, that's the whole point. I mean, New York to me, I'm biased, but New York to me is the greatest city in the world. And it seems like there's some untapped resources that we should be, at the very least, taking a much closer look at and investigating and see what we have to offer for them.
I kind of already answered this, but you think the next big tennis champion can come from your camp?
God, I certainly hope so. That's the plan. At the very least, I want kids that hopefully are getting to the college level and making it to the pros. But I don't see why it couldn't happen. I think that this would be a great story for not only this place, obviously, but for the sport and someone coming from the New York area. This is where we play our U.S. Open. So there's been very few, if any, players that have made it at all since my brother made it 25 years ago. So I think it's about time that players start coming from this area.
Do you think, going back to it not being a country club sport and trying to promote that, is that why there's a scholarship program?
Well, of course, because it's an expensive game, so we need to do a better job of making it more accessible. That's been a problem ever since I've been a kid, and it continues to be a problem. To get a racket, to get court time, especially in the city, it adds up with balls, all of it. To get properly, it's not an easy game to learn. You don't have a ball and you kick it into a net, and you have a bunch of kids, or you have one ball and you shoot into a basket. You're out there by yourself, covering a lot of territory that, to be perfectly honest, is too big for a lot of little kids. They play on smaller courts when they're on baseball fields or football fields, and that's one of the things I was trying to tell people for years. Look, we got to get kids on smaller courts so they can learn how to get better technique, volley, etc. And there's a lot of things that haven't been addressed and hopefully will be, but clearly getting the kids, the more I'm going to be pushing for years. Nike and my friendship with Phil Knight, they have stepped up as our first big sponsor, but we need to get a lot more, and obviously a lot more money, because the more money we have, the more money we'll be able to give for scholarships, etc.
John McEnroe selected 5 boys and 7 New York area girls from the open tryouts for scholarships to the new tennis academy at Sport Time on Randall's Island. I'm Kristal Hart, reporting from Randall's Island.